Today I'm going to give you a look at how I created my most viewed YouTube video. From the setups to the shooting to some of the camera settings, all the way through the edit, so you can really have a behind the scenes look at how I created this. Let's start with the first setup. So this is the first setup that we're going to take a look at, and it's fairly simple. You have your camera on a motorized slider, and then we have the product here. This is one of the cheaper motorized sliders. It's an A&J Pro, and I picked it up from B&H a few years ago, and I don't use it a whole lot, but I found that product shoots is one of the best places to use something like this. What I'll do first is program the start point. So this looks pretty good here. And then I'll find a good end point. Somewhere down here should work because we want the product to be out of frame whenever we pass it. And as far as the camera goes, if you're looking to shoot something like this, you could basically use any camera. Just try to shoot at a higher frame rate so you're able to slow it down later. This is the GH5, which currently I'm shooting 4K at 60 frames per second. And for the lens, I'm using the Rokinon 35mm Cine lens because I found that it has a relatively close focal range. So I can get real close to the product and still have it in focus. It's not a macro lens that I know of, but you can get pretty close. So what I want to do is go past the product a couple times and find a good spot to put my focus. So with this one, I would say somewhere in there looks pretty good for focus. So what I'll do is bring it back to the beginning and then let it run. And something to keep in mind when you're doing something like this, you only really need one good pass to capture the product, and then you're typically safe. You can move the product around and kind of refocus. So that's that one. So what I'll do is take it back to a good spot where I'm in focus, and then I'll reposition. And then I'll bring the camera back to the start and do another pass of the product. And to get this look, you really want to have a shallow depth of field so the product is out of focus the farther away you are. And as you get closer, the small details will come into focus. Okay, so there's another good pass there. So let's get one more shot, maybe up the laces. And that just about covers this setup and how I used that. So what I'm going to do is change everything over and show you how I did the other shots. And then this is the second setup that I used. It's pretty basic, just a paper backdrop with the product right there. It's resting on a table, and then I have my camera right here. I have the product positioned over on the right side of the frame, just to leave me some opening to put like logos or anything like that over here. To get the shots where the light is actually moving around the object, I was just using these Aperture MCs. So what I do is just turn all of the lights off and just kind of wave it over top of the product. So I'll kill this key light here. And when I do this, I like to start completely off frame with the light at first, move it completely in frame, and then out again. So then I'll change up this color. Maybe we'll do a blue. That kind of gives it a little bit more of a silhouette when you take the light behind. And you just have to make sure you're not putting the light down in frame. You could take care of that in post, but we want to do as much during the shoot to save us from extra work in post. Just completely out of frame, in frame, and then out. And you can be creative with this too. It's not something that's set in stone. It's just kind of the way that I did it. I don't really like that yellow. Let's use a red. Another thing I did for the video was place an aperture MC back behind to give it a little bit of a silhouette, and then this will just be a little bit extra whenever you're passing by with the other light. And that's really everything as far as the shooting end of all of this. Now what we'll do is take all of the footage into the computer, and I'll show you how I was able to edit and tweak everything to make it look the way that I wanted. I imported all of my footage into Final Cut, so then you can kind of see just, there were only 2 clips. I just left it run the whole time. So you can kind of see just kind of the passes for the product. Like I said, I've been wearing these, so you can see that hair on there. What I'm going to do is start cutting down the pieces that I would like to use. So let's find some good passes here. Okay, maybe here. Let's find another one after I moved it. This one's probably pretty good. So I'm going to just delete the extra out of here. So let's get that pass. That's not as in focus as I would like, but for the sake of this video, I think you'll get the picture. Okay, so that's pretty good. So we have our 3 main shots here. So what I'm going to do is highlight all 3 of those and then Command R. So what that does is it brings up your retiming options. So since I shot this at 60 frames per second, I can really drop each one of these down to 40 frames per second. And I'm sure there's a shortcut to do this, so I don't have to drag each one out. If you know that shortcut, please leave me a comment because I'm just too lazy to look for it myself. So what I'll do is drag this audio track in here. Find a good spot in the song. Okay, once I find a spot in the song that I like, then what I do is start matching the video to that. Kind of try to find the same pace. I don't even remember how I made this video to begin with. Let me go back and actually watch it. So this first hit right here, I want that to be sped up, and then whenever it gets to this part, I want it to slow down. What I want to do is figure out which frame the image really comes into focus. So I'm thinking maybe right in here, right at that logo. And then I'll select that clip again and I'll do Shift B. What that does is just adds an extra retiming spot there. I don't know the exact terminology, but then that allows me to speed this part up without affecting anything after the line. So that is still 40% down there. So we'll speed this up. We'll try like 8x. That's still a little too slow. So let's try 1500. So then that next beat hits right here. So what I'll do is just blade that and cut that part out of there, all the extra that we don't need. So the same thing with the second shot, we just want to find where it comes into focus, and I'm going to pick like right in here. And then highlight it and make sure we're right over the spot where we want to change the retiming, and we want to Shift B. And then I want to speed this up. That other one was like 1500, so let's do the same thing. And then right before that next beat, we want to cut on that frame and then trim all the extra so we can get rid of that. So then the last one, let's find where that comes into focus. We'll say right about there. Shift B, and then we want to speed this up to 1500 also, just for the consistency. And we want this right here to ideally be right at this beat. So what I'll do is kind of trim this down until that matches pretty close. So this is basic retiming. What you're doing is you're just speed ramping a clip. So either fast to slow or slow to fast. And what I'm actually going to do with this last one is, so it goes from fast to slow, but then I want to make it go back to fast again to go into the next couple hits. So that's about it for the retimed part. So now we'll take a look and see how that fits. Okay, that looks pretty good. So what we can do is go to these next couple hits here. We want to match some of these. I like that spot where that light's turning on, so I'll start there. And then at that beat, I want to make a cut and switch to, let's go with one of the MC lights. And these hits are really quick, so you want to make sure that it's a pretty clear image that you have so people aren't looking like, what did I just see in that frame? Unless that's what you want. It's all up for interpretation. Okay, so let's go to, I like that blue. So let's make that up until this beat. Let's say I want to mix in some of that green with this red. What I can do is put that directly over top of the red shot, and then I can change the opacity. Let's say let's try 50%. So that gives you some like different lights moving around there. I'm just going to blade at each one of these beats here. And each one, maybe I will scale it by 10%. So we'll go 110. 120. So then I want to fade this out at the end. So I'll add this cross dissolve. And here you could always just fade. You could use the fade to black option. For some reason, I just like the customization with the cross dissolve. I feel like it's a little easier to tweak. Actually, what I'm going to do is add cross dissolve to this shot so that red kind of fades in here. So that's just a simplified version of that 15-second Vans commercial that I made. This one is just about 10 seconds, but I think it should give you a good grasp of kind of how I go about editing. I always want to match it with the music, with any beats, with any tempo changes, with anything really. I hope this gave you a pretty good idea of how I made the Vans commercial, the shooting, the different shots, the setups that I had, and then some of the different techniques that I utilize while I'm editing. This is another one of my favorite exercises because it really challenges you artistically to create a commercial for a product. If you've ever made mock product commercials or any kind of mock commercials, I'd like to see them. So leave a link in the comments. Let me know. I would love to watch some of those. That's a wrap on this video, but if you have any more questions about any of the details that maybe I forgot, left out, whatever, leave a comment. I'll definitely get back with you. And also let me know if you have any other ideas for videos that I could create, different things that you want to learn, or things that you have seen in my videos that you would like me to kind of explain the process behind it. So that's about it. Yeah.